And welcome to another episode of The Focal Thought. My guest today is Lee Jenkins. How are you, Lee?
I'm fabulous. I appreciate you inviting me on this today, there, Croydon. It's exciting.
My pleasure. Looking to have a good conversation today. So, Lee, you are the founder of the Elevate Network, and you've got 30 plus years of devotion and study to this topic of raising your vibration and manifesting change. You're the author of many books: Abundance Tuning, Personal Power Principles, The Smartest Words Ever Spoken. And just as we were chatting a little bit earlier, you are a former Thinking to Results consultant with the one and only the great Bob Proctor. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's great to
So I
be
wanted
here.
to ask you, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, great to be here.
No, that's awesome. Good. So I wanted to ask my first question, you were previously in the real estate and finance industry,
Hmm.
and now you're in what I call, the quantum industry.
Okay, that's a good way to put
What brought about the change? Or did something happen, or what was the reason for this, the catalyst?
it. Yeah, well, it goes all the way back to you know, growing up, and this is things that we coach, and that's about your conditioning from the time you're the when you first come to this world, you're brought into an environment, and you're conditioned to see the world based on that. And so I kind of grew up with a really poor self-image. And I was led into driving a bus, and then got involved with studying Bob Proctor, and started to see the potential of a lot of different things. Which I guess one day said, you know what, I'm going to quit this bus driving job, and I went into real estate. And I gotta be honest, it wasn't an easy thing, because it was a dramatic change from what I was conditioned to believe to be true. And from that, I just went from real estate to mortgage brokering, and yeah, it's been like I don't know, probably, I'm trying to think, actually, probably close to 35 years total
Wow.
since I changed. And then from that, I just always loved the personal development world, and I love seeing people change, and I love seeing people grow and become happier, and just fulfill their dreams. And so I kind of started following in Bob's guidance. I became actually two certifications with Bob, and I've been doing that for quite a while now, which
Sure.
has led to the Elevate Network as well.
Correct. Yeah. And for those who don't know, I mean, we've got, people who are in the commission business or
Mhm.
self-employed business with real estate as a realtor or on the finance side as a mortgage agent. And it might be, normal for them sometimes, doing that sort of role. But for someone who's coming off, a typical 9 to 5 where you are employed, and you go into the commission slash self-employed role where chiefly you're making your own work, you're designing your own work. It's not work that's been given to you. You said it was dramatic. That can be a dramatic change, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember when I was like 21, and I got the job driving the city bus. And I remember my dad saying that I had won the lottery because they hadn't had a layoff since World War II.
Yeah,
And that was the mindset. It was, you go and you get a job that pays a reasonably good, hourly wage, hopefully has benefits and a pension plan, and that's winning the lottery. That's what I grew up with. And but I was never happy. And that's the thing too. I remember one time they used to have this. They called it a work bus, and it was for the people who've been around for a while. They had the early morning runs. Usually they're starting at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they're done at 1 o'clock, which is ideal if you're going to be a bus driver. You want to be done and over with. And so, anyways, I was during vacation times, so you could basically bid on some of these runs when one of the people that had that run uh, would go on vacation. So I did that, and I got on this again. They called it the work bus because it would drive around and pick up the drivers, and take you to the bus depot to get the bus. And I remember that one time getting on there, and there's these guys that have been there for 15, 20, 25 years, and I couldn't see a single one of them that was happy. Like, they were absolutely miserable. They hated their lives. And I'm thinking, you know what? I don't want to do this. And that was got me really focusing on making a change. And but it was really scary because I was not conditioned to be in sales. And I look back at it and I'm thinking, geez, I don't know, I don't know what got me to make that change, but I'm sure glad I did. And today I like working with people like that, real estate people, mortgage brokers, because I can help them get to the next level. And that's really what I love doing. I love seeing people reach their goals, their dreams, that type of thing.
Sure. And I'm paraphrasing the quote here, and I forget who it was that said it, maybe Thoreau, but someone said, most men lead lives of quiet desperation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
It's really not advertised. And for people who don't know, Bob Proctor, he was one of the original ambassadors of the Think and Grow Rich book by Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
And he was famous for carrying around the original copy. And he would also have a lot of his beliefs, his vision, written on a paper, carrying around in his wallet. Much like Jim Carrey, was known to carry around that check that he wrote to himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It
we're
works.
lucky. Sorry?
I said that definitely works.
Oh, it works. And I'm living proof of that. There's many sort of affirmations and goals, that I've achieved because of using that technique. And it's such a simple technique, and it is powerful because the world's your oyster. You can ask for anything and have it. And we're lucky to have Bob Proctor, who passed away recently. He was active up until a very, very late age. He was one of the, again, original, not founders, but ambassadors of this type of sort of practice, abundance thinking, the law of attraction, that whole category. And we're lucky in Canada to have, Bob Proctor, someone close to home, as it were, because a lot of the major players in this field are in, the US and the UK. How did you come about into his consultancy program or, meeting him?
Well, it started actually going back to being a bus driver when there's again I was probably kind of a mess back then, and somebody kind of decided they wanted to mentor me a little bit and turned me on to Bob's original program, You Were Born Rich,
Yeah.
and I took it home and I started watching it, and I was like, wow, like this is exactly what I need to know, and I just kept studying and studying and studying it, and then as time went on, I learned that he actually has certifications, like certifications that you can get by studying with him. And I signed up for the first one. That was his original. It was called Life Success Consulting,
Yeah.
and I did that course and was certified by him. And I had a chance to meet him in person. I've been to his house. And then as time went on, his partner Sandy Gallagher came along, and they put together Thinking in the Results and created a new certification program for that. So I did that one too. So I have two certifications of Bob's, and yeah, it was just again I think luck. I had somebody that saw something in me that I didn't see in myself and turned me on to Bob a long time ago, and I'm basically trying to do my best to keep it moving. I just love seeing people grow and change, and it's amazing when you really truly understand what's going on inside. You can change what's going on outside, and that's the key. And that's what happened with me. And to be able to say that I've been to Bob Proctor's house, and I know his wife, I know his kids, even his son Ray was living in Whitby for quite a while. And what's interesting is the girlfriend I had, she didn't know who Bob Proctor was, and I was telling her about him, and she says, "Oh, my neighbor's name is Proctor. It's Ray Proctor." I'm thinking, "What? You live next door to Ray Proctor?" Like, it was Bob's son. Like, it was kind of fascinating. So,
Oh, that's synchronicity right there.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's been an exciting ride. It's I think that I've had a lot of issues when I was younger. I wasn't a happy guy, and I've been able to take that story along with me and take the understandings that I've gotten from Bob, and now I share that with everybody. And I get realtors and I get mortgage brokers and people like that want to take things to the next level. Like realtors, for example, like you get somebody that maybe sells a house every couple of months, would like to sell a couple of houses every week. Well, they certainly can. It's all in the mind. It's once you change your mindset and start to act in a different way, well, you can have whatever you want. And that's, again, even with the Elevate Network, that's what we're trying to do, is create something that's going to be international. A big picture of, we're talking about conventions and all kinds of wonderful things. And it's going to be pretty exciting. It's going quite well. It's not very old. It's only like 6 months old.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
it's already growing. I got, we have other coaches that come on board, and the idea of the network is to try to make it kind of along the lines of like Netflix, but for personal development. And instead of watching TV, you can go to the Elevate Network and study a program, that kind of thing. And then there's also like live calls where people can come on like a Zoom call and ask questions and get some coaching and things like that. So I think it's going pretty good. It's kind of exciting. There's a lot of people excited about it.
Got it. And it's something that's much needed. I mean, much like Gaia TV, right? Which is a different version of cable,
Mm-hmm.
if you'll have that. It stretches your perception and also takes you outside of, what is considered the norm, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Status quo by society. So, with this sort of thinking, abundance thinking, the law of attraction, etc., the basic premise is very simple. If you look to religious texts, some, would summarize it as saying, ask and you shall receive, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Believe and you shall have it. But it doesn't seem that people are born necessarily with this sort of mind frame, or maybe they are and then they lose it as they start to grow up. Because we see children, sort of daydreaming, playing with the imagination. They're always sort of on that vision board exercise, right? Naturally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's something, you've said, and you're the power of it, tried, tested, and true to that also. When you think of something, when you visualize it, it does come, to fruition. And it was Napoleon Hill who said that the scariest thing is how fast it can appear before you. We tend to draw it down and, put a big mountain in front of the molehill, but it's really not that complicated. Do you have any thoughts as to why we don't naturally think that way? Or if maybe we do and we lose it along the way, or?
Well, we're born perfect. It's the environment that conditions us to see the world based on how those people in your environment see it. So, you can be thinking all wonderful things of, I want to be a multimillionaire, I want to do this, I want to do that. But if you're not conditioned to live that kind of a life, you're going to have a rough time. I refer to it as hitting a resistant wall. What happens is you can get up against that wall and it can become very scary. Bob talked about the same kind of idea. He called it a terror barrier. And one reason I've kind of changed the way I present it is because it's not always terrorizing. It causes us to resist. Like I've seen many times, a person starts a business and they get to a point where it's just about to take off, but it's uncomfortable because they're not conditioned to have that success. So what they do is they'll go and create a second business and then maybe a third business. And now they're working, a lot of hours, maybe 80 hours a week or something like that. Like it's kind of something crazy. Sure. And the reality is that they just put that same effort into going through that wall with the first business, they could be very successful. And that's the same thing like in real estate, mortgage brokering. Like, why is it that some real estate agents sell a tremendous amount of real estate and yet others don't? It isn't because that person is somehow better. They're just doing it. They're not conditioned to stop. And that's, again, I grew up in an environment where, you went and got a job, you got paid by the hour, and the key is to get benefits and a pension plan. So real estate was way out of my comfort zone. So I had to learn how to change that. And I've done that. And now that's what I do. I help other people change it. So I in my book, Abundance Tuning, in the first chapter on reality, I point out the fact that it really is, it's, sorry, there's something flashing here. Anyway, sorry. Your reality is, you have to understand that you're causing it. No matter what's going on in your world, you're somehow causing it. And that goes back into the vibration that you were just mentioning too, is you're going to draw to you whatever vibration you're on. So if you're, you'd be saying, I want to have a successful career, but yet you're conditioned to maybe get an hourly wage somewhere, then your vibration is always going to get put to the side, and you're not going to actually move in the direction you need. You're going to get uncomfortable. You're not going to attract things. And the key, I think, that's important to understand is that anything and everything you could ever imagine already exists. You don't have to go get it. It's here. What you have to do is be open to receiving it. And that's where we run into problems. Again, we are conditioned not to be open to receiving certain things. Uh, but again, they can be changed. I'm proof. If I was still the same person I was back when I was a bus driver, I'm not even sure I'd be alive today because I just was not a happy guy. And my life is completely different now. And again, I think a lot of that to Bob Proctor from what I learned. But I think it's very important to understand it's a process. You got to want to do it. And by the understanding and awareness, the type of things that I try to help people understand is, it's a lot simpler than you think. It just seems really scary. And it can be done. Often, you need somebody to work with that's going to help you do that. It's difficult to do on your own. I know I studied a lot of Bob Proctor's material, and I did much better. But it wasn't until I actually had somebody that I could discuss this stuff with that really made me see what I was missing. And again, I in the book on abundance tuning that I have in the chapter on reality, I talk about like a movie projector. And you think of an old school type movie projector, you have this white light that shines through a lens, and whatever that lens has is going to show up on the screen in front of, say on a wall or whatever, if you're a movie theater, that type of thing. So if you think of that screen as that's your life, well, even though you're that pure white light, you're that person, that's that child that was born pure, but is now seeing that world, that reality, based on whatever lens has been put there. But the thing to understand is the lens isn't yours. That lens is whatever that environment you grew up in is telling you it is. So therefore, whatever is showing up in your reality is usually someone else's reality. And it's probably not exactly the way you want to live your life. That's why a lot of people are really not very happy. They keep going around and around and around in circles all the time, never really getting where they want to go. Relationships, if you grow up in an environment where, you're broken family, well, chances are you're going to have a broken family. If you grow up in an environment where you have a loving, happy, healthy family, well, the chances are you're going to create a happy, healthy family. But even if you grow up in an environment where the family isn't solid, you can still create one. And this is the stuff that I just love doing, is helping people get to exactly where they want to go. I always loved, it was something that Bob taught us, and, he uses it all the time, or did use it all the time in his marketing, was, tell me what you want and I'll show you how to get it. And that's exactly right. It's when you really truly understand this material, you start to realize you already have everything you need. You're just not accepting it yet. You're not open to receiving it yet. And again, that goes back into, I was talking about, real estate people, like what's the difference between somebody that's, a top producer and somebody who's just getting by? It's just mindset. Like anybody can be successful at anything they decide to do. You have to be passionate about it. Like, somebody who would rather be a carpenter probably shouldn't be selling real estate. They should be working on becoming a carpenter or whatever it is you decide to do. Like, in my case, I love this type of business. Like, I just, I don't see myself ever doing anything else. And again, that goes back to, what caused the beginning of the Elevate Network was to build something that we can take, worldwide, international. I've got a big picture in my mind. I've got some good people that have joined on, and I think that we're going to do some incredible things. I shouldn't say I think, I know we're going to do some incredible things. And that's the beautiful thing about it. When you have a good, clear picture in your mind of what it is you're trying to accomplish, this universe that we're all part of is going to show you the path. And the area that we usually have a problem is that we don't see the path, or we're not willing to see the path, or we get uncomfortable going down a path that we're not used to. And again, this is what we try to do, is try to help people understand that and then work on changing it, because it can be changed. I'm proof. Even Bob Proctor is proof.
Yeah.
There's a man that, he didn't even finish grade 9. Somebody felt, he talks about it where somebody felt sorry for him, got him a job as a fire in the fire department in Toronto. And, then, he 87 years old and he passed away and changed lives all around the world. Well, obviously, if he can change and I've changed, then anybody can actually accomplish whatever they want to do.
And that's the beauty of a quantum world. Change can
Yeah,
happen, the second you think of it, right?
exactly. Yeah. It's fascinating too. You're gonna like I find all the time. It was interesting. I was doing some stuff where I'm redoing my YouTube channel and I'm looking at creating like we're working on with the Elevate Network, working on creating funnels and autoresponders and all this kind of stuff. And uh, one of the things from the people that I'm kind of studying with, they were talking about making changes to YouTube, which I've been doing. And then the interesting thing uh, they said that it's a good idea to get on other people's podcasts. And do you know that within about half an hour after I read that, you contacted me?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Not surprised.
that's the kind of thing that does happen when you're open to receiving it. I can think of the old Lee would say, "Oh, I don't want to do a podcast because it makes me nervous," or something like that, which it doesn't. So as soon as I saw that, I just number one check to make sure you're a real person because there's a lot of stuff out there that's not. Or it is. So I checked and I thought, hey, look at this. Number one, he's a mortgage broker, which I have experience in mortgage brokering. You're Canadian. You live in the Durham region, which I did. And on top of that, it appears as though you're a jazz guitarist. Is that correct?
In a previous lifetime, yes.
A previous lifetime. Well, I did play the drums in a previous lifetime, so I understand the musician side. I understand the mortgage side, and I understand what you're doing. So that's I look at this as it's not an accident. It's not an accident that you and I are having this conversation. And this type of thing can happen with anybody and everybody in this entire universe. We can have anything and everything we want. You just have to be open to receiving it. And that's what we do. It's about changing paradigms. It's about changing habits. It's that conditioning that comes from a childhood. It's the environment you grew up in that's determined the way you're going to live your life. And the sad part is most people don't realize that you can change it. Everybody is born with something in their heart. Like you were talking earlier about playing with pots and pans and using your imagination. Well, then the sad part is you go to school and they try to stop that. They don't want you to do that. You're staring out the window or something like that, and they basically say, "Stop that. Pay attention." Would you pay attention? They stop you from imagining things. They stop you from creating. And basically, it's making you fit right into some type of employee, which there's nothing wrong with that if you like it. But at the same time, a lot of people just aren't happy. Just going to get a job just for the sake of a job is not going to make a happy person. Now, having said that, though, something that's interesting is even going back to the bus driving days, I remember there's a couple of different bus drivers. One in particular, I was thinking about that. I can't think of his name at the moment, but he was always looking for overtime, always. And this was a single guy. I couldn't quite really understand at the time what he was doing, but then I realized after talking to him that he was using the money to buy real estate, the extra money. He was buying properties that maybe needed a little work, and then he would take the extra money he was earning from working the overtime and building this business. He retired a multimillionaire from driving a bus. He had a vision in his mind of exactly what he wanted to do, and he did it.
Yeah.
And yet, a lot of the other bus drivers used to make fun of him because he would always seem to be working. Don't you ever take a break? Well, he was doing exactly what he wanted to do. So you can be a bus driver and still reach whatever goals you want. You just have to understand that the how will come to you only when you're open to receiving it. And that's, again, what we're trying to help people understand is, and help people change to receive whatever it is that they want. Everybody has a different idea what they want their life to look like. But yet very few people are actually living it.
And, sure. It brings us to that quote, right? Men leading lives of quiet desperation. And again, I don't mean to center this around men. I'm not being heliocentric or anything. It's just that way, the quote was, pointing towards, men who in society sometimes don't have an emotional outlet, right? But this actually applies to anyone, men, women, children, seniors, anyone's a human, in fact, right? That's looking to better themselves, and not just mainly, for financial merit or, anything like that. Success could just be, leading a happy life, leading a life that, is important to you and your loved ones, right? So you could have a family, like you're saying, you could be employed, you could work the 9 to 5. You don't necessarily have to be self-employed. What we're talking about is the control aspect of this, right? The manifestation of your thoughts coming into real life, into the physical plane.
Hmm.
That's what this game is about. And, you know, we speak of things like synchronicity, coincidences, such as, you know, you and me meeting.
Right.
Um, and I'm wondering if I'm meeting myself, by speaking with you. But that's actually not the, you know, that's not outside of the norm. That should actually be the normal, right? All of this stuff we're
That's
talking
right.
about, being able to manifest and all these synchronicities, we should be comfortable, being in that world. And even something as simple as achieving success. I remember when I was starting this out, I was very nervous about the process of getting to success. But to be honest, I actually got even more nervous when I achieved the success.
Right.
Partly because, wow, this stuff actually works. And then secondly, okay, now that I have the success, how do I maintain it or, take it to the second level, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one
Yeah,
thing
a
that's
lot of times
really,
that's a big thing. When people start to see respect or start see the success, what ends up happening is their conditioning is telling them subconsciously that you don't deserve it. Yeah, who do you think you are? And we end up sabotaging it. We don't even realize it. We start to behave in a different way. It ends up sabotaging the success we're having. So that's one thing to focus on. Because again, like, I grew up, thinking that you had to have an hourly wage and driving a bus was like winning the lottery. But when
yeah,
I started having success, I could see that my behavior was changing and I would start to act differently, causing it to fall apart. I was sabotaging it. That's a tough lesson. It's not easy when things are going well and all of a sudden you're wondering what happened. Well, you caused it. And that's the thing that is important to understand is that conditioning, the way we see the world, is causing whether we're going to have success or not. And again, it depends on whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is. It's going to happen. Like even you think about, I remember Bob always talking about, if you want to lose weight, don't focus on losing weight and don't get on a scale. And I'm thinking, why not? And he goes, because your subconscious mind has got you to where you are right now. Like if you're overweight, it's because there's something going on subconsciously that's causing you to be overweight. You're emotionally eating, you're doing lots of different things. And by getting on a weight and watching, or getting on a scale and watching your weight drop, well, your subconscious mind is going to kick in and say, I'm off track here. I'm not being myself. And it's going to cause you to put the weight back on. You see that, the yo-yo diets and people, things like that. So, one of the things that I learned actually when I was trying to lose some weight, I'm still working on that. But Bob said never get on a scale. And actually he gave us somebody's listening wants to lose weight. He gave us a good affirmation. It was, I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm in perfect weight. I'm looking good and I'm feeling great. And the key is perfect weight. Like, you don't know what your perfect weight is, but you do subconsciously know what your perfect weight is. And the only reason you may be overweight is because you've been conditioned in certain ways around food and things like that and exercise, which causes you to be overweight. Like, again, like I grew up in an environment where quality time with my dad had to be around food. So, being happy, you ate. When you want to celebrate, you ate. It's
yeah.
when you're unhappy, you ate. Right? These are all conditions in your subconscious mind, and it causes you to behave that way. Same thing with finance. It's anything to do with income. If you're not conditioned to be making $1 million a year, well, you're not going to get there until you change that conditioning. Right?
A lot of times, we're sort of getting into maybe a little bit of the process. I purposely wanted to keep this interview very sort of base level and generic because once you get into the details of this, you could spend
Mm-hmm.
a couple of lifetimes and you can go on different tangents. But, I want to sort of break the ice for people,
Yep.
get them to start thinking that their current situation is not their forever situation.
Mm-hmm.
At any time, you can always make that move. You just have to, sort of increase the wantingness. It has to come naturally, and then you'll find your path, right? Like you said, it's right in front of you, and the universe will lead you. But there is an intellectual side to this where you sort of reason, okay, I want to make a change, but then to break down that conditioning or to take on new conditioning, that sort of gets into an emotional aspect, right? Because
Right.
you can say to yourself, okay, I want to be a millionaire, but if you don't feel like a millionaire, it's never going to happen too, because at the end, the universe is responding to frequency, right? And the frequency is the emotion that you're giving out.
That's correct. Yeah. Absolutely.
So
And that's
how would you advise people if there's one thing that they can do, just really quick, because I know we're almost, into time, but if there's one thing they can do just to change the conditioning of their emotional mindset to sort of, regulate that or elevate that thermostat, what would you tell them?
well, first off, you got to get clear on what it is you want.
Yeah,
And that's where most people, you can ask them, what do you want? And say, I don't know. And, the reality is they do know, but they're not, emotionally attached to the idea of having it.
yeah,
So that's the thing is you got to have something that you're going to get emotionally involved with. And then that's going to change your vibration and cause you to start to move towards it. And that's when you're going to start to realize that there's certain things that are holding you back. And I refer to that as the resistance wall.
yeah,
You're going to hit that wall. And the more you understand that, well, you can go through it. So I think one of the easiest things to do is number one is get clear on what it is you want and then create affirmations because affirmations will help you change the vibration you're in.
yeah,
Like a good one too, that Bob always talked about when it came to money was I'm so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing amounts from multiple sources on a continuous basis. Like I would say that over and over again. And that's exactly how I end up in real estate and mortgage brokering. It was that continuous flow of income that I was seeking. And again, it can be done. And I highly recommend affirmations
yeah,
as something to get started with. And of course, intentions. What are you going to do today or what are you going to do tomorrow that's going to take you closer to what it is that you're hoping to have in your life, what kind of dreams you have. I remember one of the things too that I try to help people see is like, let's say in, maybe in a year from now, you would like to have an extra $100,000 in your bank account.
yeah,
Okay, so start breaking it down. Okay, what do you need to do in the next 6 months? What are your intentions to accomplish in the next 6 months? They're going to take you there. And then break it down again. What do you need to be doing over the next 3 months that's going to take you to where you want to be in 6 months? That'll take you where you want to be in 1 year. And you keep going right down into what do I need to do this week? And what do I need to do tomorrow? Break it down in little bite-sized pieces. And if you just keep doing that, next thing you know, the year's going to go by and you're going to have that $100,000 in your bank account. Because this universe will show you exactly how to give. Is it going to give it to you? No. It could. You could win the lottery or something like that, but it doesn't usually work that way. It usually requires effort. And it requires you following a path. And again, if you do these things, the universe will show you the path, but you have to follow it. And, it's a journey. And I'm proof that you can basically live the life you want to live. Is it easy? No, it can be difficult, but it's worth it. I wouldn't want to spend the rest of my life living the way I used to. I wouldn't trade it for a second. And was it easy? No. But it was definitely worth it.
yeah. And I'm living proof as well. And the moment you move into, towards the new direction, there's no going back.
Right.
And even if someone offered you a chance to go back, people would say no, 100% on that.
I
Because
find
you,
even, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was saying because you've seen the new way, the new path, and like you said, it has been hard, but then suddenly it becomes very easy, and that easiness is only backed up, with your passion, and it's a natural course, so you don't even feel the difficulty sometimes.
Right. It's life can be exactly the way you want it, but you're going to have to make the effort. And like we've already said, it's worth it. It's interesting. I'm in an area where I spent most of my life, Windsor, and I'm running into people I knew here, even in the real estate industry, and they don't understand me at all anymore. Like
It's a good thing.
it's especially the bus drivers. Like it's they start talking to me like I'm a bus driver, and
Yeah.
I love them to death, but there's nothing we have in common at all anymore. Like I find myself wanting to coach them, but that's not what they're looking for. So I'm trying to be friendly, and but the reality is you also got to be willing to let go of whatever the past is and move on.
Sure.
And that's the key, right? Let go, and let God. One of my favorite sayings.
Nice. Let go, let God, and the universe will come to you.
That's
Listen,
right.
thanks very much, Lee. I really appreciate it. Or, we're almost out of time, but I will put some contact information for you in the show notes. And
Perfect. Thank you.
thank you again for the podcast. It's been great.
I greatly appreciate you reaching out, and hopefully we'll stay in touch.
Great. Thanks again.
Take care.